Hello and welcome everyone. Here we are for a very different video. So, I want to start doing a couple different videos on the channel that weren't just playing Magic. So for all those who like to watch the Magic gameplay videos, if you're not interested in these kind of videos, I understand. Now, most of these are going to be list videos or discussion videos where I talk about a topic I want to talk about. I completely get it if you don't enjoy these. That's okay. Don't tune into them. Perfectly fine. Some of them will be non-magic related, so the titles will have what they are basically. But for this first one, I had a pretty simple one in mind. So top 10 planeswalkers we don't want to see again, or at least not for a while. And I mean in the context of the story as well as um, the cards, stuff like that. Now I don't have a huge knowledge of this overarching story, but I did keep up pretty close with the story from Origins to War of the Sparks conclusion. Basically the whole Gatewatch saga. So, of course, this list is my opinion. These are just the things I'm feeling or thinking about. So I'm gonna go down through the list, and these are in order of the ones that I would be the most okay seeing to the ones I just really don't want to see. And they're for different reasons. I'll kind of go over the reasons as we go. So first up, number 10 is Chandra Noir. So a little bit of information on Chandra. She's had 14 different unique Planeswalker cards printed. She's of course one of the original 5 Planeswalkers, along with Jace, Ajani, Garuk, and Lily. Of course, we saw her in Origins as well, kind of get her origin, and then through the Gatewatch saga, we see her develop. She gets the reunion with her mother on Kaladesh, and it kind of all comes to a peak during War of the Spark, when she helps to stop the Immortal Sun and all that stuff, fighting with Dovin and such. So it kind of feels like her story's pretty well wrapped up, and then we get kind of a final version of her you could say her ultimate form, her ultimate power level in Awakened Inferno in M20. I don't know if there's a story with M20 or if there's any kind of information for her story added through M20. Kind of like in M19, there was a little bit more information given to us regarding Nicol Bolus, but I don't know if there's anything like that for M20 with her. But it just gives her story kind of a nice wrap up. And, I don't have a problem with her showing up again so much as I think that she shouldn't be the main focus. Like, if she's going to show up in the story, have her just be kind of there to help out in some small way, nothing big, or kind of as a cool little nod during core sets, like show her an art or something weird like that. Nothing that's like super big. I don't really want any more stories revolving around her. But I mean, as far as all the ones on the list, she's the one I'd be okay seeing the most next. So, all right, moving on to number 9 is Karn. So Karn has been printed 4 different times, 3 times as a planeswalker, 1 time as a creature. Each of his planeswalkers printings have had some form of impact on whatever meta or whatever format, in some different format. So, of course, Karn Liberated, major impact in Modern. Tron deck in Modern is super powerful. Turn 3 Karn is what the deck does quite frequently and is very devastating to most decks. Then you have Sign of Urza that was played in the Affinity deck, the traditional Affinity deck in Modern, for a little while before Experimental Frenzy. So it didn't have a super big impact. Of course, it was in Standard and played quite a bit. Not necessarily as a 4 of, but we saw copies of it. And then you have, of course, Great Creator, who has had the largest impact, I would say, overall. And he's only just barely come out. Impacted Vintage, impacted Legacy, impacted Modern. Smaller impact in Standard. But yeah. So as far as Karn's concerned, I think it's a case of we've had a lot of him recently. You know, we had him return in Dominaria with Scion of Urza, and then again in War of the Spark with Great Creator. Obviously, we knew we were going to get him in War of the Spark since he was with the group, but I think it's time to give him a break. You know, with them returning to these different planes, I'm sure eventually we're going to return to New Phyrexia or have something else involving New Phyrexia. I'd like to see us just wait until then to bring him back. I think that'd be cool. Again, I think his biggest thing is we've gotten too much of him recently that's been too good. You know, he hasn't had a kind of a dud or just kind of half strength planeswalker. He seems like all of his versions are pretty good. At least in respects to standard with Scion of Urza and of course Great Creator and Modern and beyond. So next up at number 8 is Morasca. So of course Morasca was a very big part of the War of the Spark story. Starting, we really met back up with her in Ixalan, working with Bolus. Of course, she had a lot of powerful cards accompanying her. Quite a few different versions we've seen so far. In fact, she's actually had 6 different printings, which I was completely surprised by the fact that she had that many printings. Yeah, most like a lot of them are Planeswalker deck printings, but still, I think she had 3 different Planeswalker deck printings. Kind of blew me away. But the point being, you know, I believe that because of her betrayal and everything, or quote unquote betrayal, she has some kind of redemption she has to do with the guild pact and with the guilds and stuff. I think all of the planeswalkers that worked with Bolus have something they have to do to kind of appease Ravnica again. But either way, you know, let's give her a break. You know, we've seen a lot of her recently. Let's just take a break from her. Another cool thing is, in the novel, I know it touches up on it a little bit, but then in the Japanese manga version of the War of the Spark story, it goes more specific into it. We actually see her get a happy ending with Jace. They, I guess, kind of become a couple. I don't know full on detail into that so much, but yeah, so that's kind of cool. You know, she's awesome. The cards that have accompanied her, like Vraska's Contempt, have been awesome so far. But let's just give her a break. Let's take a step back from her and come back to her a little later. Alright, so next up is Teferi. Now, he's been printed 5 different times. Once as a creature, 4 different versions as a planeswalker. And just for reference, his planeswalker versions are Hero of Dominaria, Teferi Time Raveler, Temporal Archmage, which was the Commander deck version, and then there was the Planeswalker deck version as well. And then, of course, Mage of Zhalfir, the Flash 5-cost creature. With Teferi, I think a lot of people are already tired of Time Raveler. I'm tired of playing as Time Raveler. Hero of Dominaria was super cool and super powerful and kind of annoying at his time. But you had other things keeping him in check and not really letting him be too busted or too strong. I think everyone's a little tired of Teferi. Let's just let Teferi go away for a little while. You know, he can come back later on. Maybe bring him back in if we go back to New Phyrexia. Maybe bring him in with Karn. Have Karn take him with him or something like that. Or just save him for later, you know. Yeah. I think he's just another case of too much strong cards at one time. Too much use of him in the story at one time. Give the guy a break. Alright, so moving on to number 6 is our good old friend Sarkin Vol. So Sarkin, of course, is kind of one of the more unique planeswalkers on this list, as he has, first of all, 7 different versions, but he's also been printed in 4 different colors. So the only color he hasn't been is white. So he's been able to access black mana as Sarkin the Mad from Rise of Eldrazi. Of course, his original version, Sarkin Vol, is red and green from Shards of Alara. And then you have, of course, a bunch of mono red versions. But you also have the pictured version here, Unbroken, Sarkin Unbroken from Dragons of Tarkir, which is blue, green, and red. He's been red more times than not. Um, yeah, and I think it's this time we get a new red planeswalker taking over. We've had Chandra, we've had Sarkin. Maybe let's find a new red planeswalker. Out of the red planeswalkers that exist now, I can't think of any of them that I think would be good to take over as the red planeswalker, kind of moving forward to focus on. Like obviously blue has a new one in Mu Yanling. She seems pretty interesting. Let's see what you can do with her. I like to see a new planeswalker in red show up. Because off the top of my head, you have the like the Battle Bond planeswalker. I'd really like to see Rowan. Is it Rowan Kenrith? Whatever. The red planeswalker from Battle Bond. I think it'd be cool to see her as the new red planeswalker. Um, you know, and his story was really tied in with Nicol Bolus. I think it could come to an end. Let's bring it to a conclusion. No harm, no foul. Move on. Let's get a different planeswalker going here. Yeah, you know. All right, moving on to number 5. Dovin Bond. Now, to be honest, Dovin could have been number 1 on this list. I don't like this guy, planeswalker. I don't like his character. He's boring. Don't get me wrong, I love like Dovin's Veto. I love that counterspell. That's a really good card. I don't mind playing with his Ravnica Allegiance Planeswalker card, but he just bores me. He's not that interesting to me. And he's been printed as a Planeswalker 4 times already, and he just showed up in Kaladesh, which was what, 2 years ago? That's crazy. Like, he's one of the newest Planeswalkers on this entire list. In fact, I think he is the newest Planeswalker on this entire list. Yeah, he's the newest Planeswalker on this entire list. And he is yeah. We've already had 4 versions of him. That's insane. Yeah, he just he's not interesting to me. He's kind of boring looking. It was cool that he tied in with Bolus, but yeah. I've had enough Dovin. Let's forget him. Let's move on to someone else. Also, I think we've had enough blue-white planeswalkers. We could probably move away from that now. I'm good. All right, so on to number 4, which I know everyone's totally surprised that he'd be on anyone's I don't want to see him anymore list, but Jace Beleren. Of course, Jace again was one of the original 5 planeswalkers. He has had 11 versions of himself printed that are unique. He's definitely one of the strongest planeswalkers ever printed from Jace the Mind Sculptor. Then you have, Jace Prodigy. Whenever he seems to be in the story, he always seems to be a part of the spotlight and kind of take all of it. Let's let some other blue planeswalkers have the show now. Let's move away from Jace. I get, okay, Gatewatch, he was kind of their quote-unquote leader, him and Gideon, but let's move away from him now. Also, let the guy have a happy ending for his story. Like, you leave him there. Let him be on Ravnica. Let him be with Morasca. Let him have a happy ending. He's free of all the drama from Liliana and all this other stuff. Let him just try and be happy. I mean, as it is, like, the Planeswalker cards that they've printed for him have all been pretty impactful, or a lot of them have been pretty impactful in the formats, respectively. You had Jace Prodigy, which, Jeskai Black. You had the 4-color Rally the Ancestors company deck during their standard. Jace the Mind Sculptor, of course, in Cobblade, and all the way through Legacy. And now in Modern, it's not super powerful, but it's played in most blue decks that want a card like that. Architect of Thought was eventually became very played and was like a 4 of in every blue-white X deck in that standard during Ravnica Theros block. Was that what it was? Or was it Theros? Yeah, Ravnica Theros, right? I think so. You know, you had Jace Bellerin, who saw a lot of play in Standard. I mean, admittedly, it was used to kill Mind Sculptors, but still. And even Memory Adept saw a little bit of play in Theros block in the Esper and Blue White controlled mirror matches. It was really powerful. You know, so we've had enough. Let's take a break on Jace. Let's move on. There's plenty of other Planeswalkers you can focus on. Yeah. All right. So number 3 is our good friend Tezzeret. So now Tezzeret has had 7 versions printed. He has primarily been blue and black, but he's of course, started off base blue. His story has been tied in pretty much nonstop with Bolus. At least the current versions of himself have been all about Bolus, all about working with Bolus. The planar bridge and all this other stuff. Give him a break, and let's take some time away from Tezzeret. And when we finally bring Tezzeret back, let's give him his own story that makes him his own character, his own antagonist, his own whatever. Yeah, I think he's got a cool design, cool look. Let's give him some time and then bring him back with another like Agent of Bolus like power level card that isn't super busted towards like Jace the Mind Sculptor, where literally the format's entirely warped around him, but still has a fringe deck that's super awesome and fun to play. Yeah. That's pretty much all I got to say about him. I just really don't want him to see him anymore because he's so connected with Bolus. Like, let's give him some time. Let's get him his own story. Give him some time to do his own thing. All right, next on the list is Nico Bolus himself. He's had 6 different versions printed, 4 Planeswalkers, 2 creatures. Of course, you have the original Nico Bolus, then you have the Ravager as the creature, which is a flip into a Planeswalker, and then he has 4 different Planeswalker printings. Yeah. So, he's been the big bad villain for the most recent part of the story, and he's been a good villain. He's been a super powered villain. Decimated the Gatewatch, showed off his dominance, had this big elaborate scheme to become this immortal being that was going to be unmatched by anything else. But we've seen him defeated. He's locked away in the prison realm, and let's just leave it there. Let's leave him there for a while. I'm sure eventually, he'll bust out or whatever, but let's not worry about that for a while. Like, let's give him a couple years. let's get a couple blocks by, then let's think about Bolus again. Maybe I'm alone on this, but I loved him as a villain, but we've had enough. Bolus has had his big grand scheme. It failed. End of discussion. Let's move on now. We can come up with plenty of new villains, and they don't have to be Planeswalkers even. They can be regular, they can be legendary creatures. I think that's something that would be super cool if they do from now on, now that they're done with the Gatewatch saga, is if, sure, you have Planeswalkers show up. Maybe you have 5, 6 in a block. But, you have yourself, have a legendary creature be the main villain of the plane. Or of the block instead of, powerful Planeswalker. So, alright, so next up is kind of an honorable mention. And I know a lot of people probably thinking should be number 1 or this would be high up on the list. But basically, this is one that I didn't want to put on the list for quite a few reasons. And it actually is, a lot of it got to do with who I chose as number 1. It's why don't have this one on the list. So we have Liliana Vess. Now, Liliana is hands down one of my favorite Planeswalkers. For a long time, she was my favorite. Playing Standard with Liliana Veil, and then playing Modern, playing Jund with Liliana. She was awesome. So, mechanically and card-wise, she's always been one of my favorite Planeswalkers. I really love her aesthetic, her design, what she does usually. I really like her. But as far as story's concerned, her story's pretty much the same. I really like her story. Got into the darker arts to try and save her brother and stuff like that. it ends up turning this long epic of her getting these contracts with these demons, then trying to break the contracts and get freed, and then ends up in Bolus's clutches, and then ends up having to betray her friends, yada yada yada. So the reason she's not on here is because I want to see what happens to her next. I want to see her redemption arc, or at least because I'm pretty sure Kaya's redemption is being sent to assassinate Liliana for what she did. I want to at least see that. Like, don't show me her as like the main protagonist of that story. Show us Kaya trying to go after her. Maybe, who knows? Maybe she convinces Kaya that she's changed or whatever. Or maybe Kaya helps her to find her redemption then. Then maybe she dies or something. But I don't want to see her die, really. We kind of, if she was going to die, I would rather have been here at War of the Spark. But, and that's it. That's a big reason. I want to see what happens to her next. What's her future going to be like? Um, you know, it's she's alone again. She's got all this going on. Um, yeah, I want to see her again. Like, I also want to see Garrick return, and I think that'd be another situation that'd be cool to see her in, is her being attacked by Garrick. Garrick chasing her down and finding her to try and, get his revenge. Although I'm not really sure what his mental state is after becoming Apex Predator, where he's basically just hunting and killing planeswalkers. But so she's the honorable mention because I don't want her on this list, because I think it'd be awesome to see her again, see her story, see her redemption arc. And I mean, I don't want a bunch of it. I just want like one more story. Give us one more, maybe not even a block. Give us a set. Like, maybe, I don't know, next core set after 20, whatever, 21 the next year. Something like that. Something that's small, easy. Give us a wrap up to her story. And especially if you can do something with core sets like you did with Chandra, maybe do that every year where you get one planeswalker that has 3 different versions. It's going to conclude their story. That'd be cool. Do that with Liliana next year. I would think that'd be kind of cool. Alright, so anyway, number 1, Gideon Jura. So, I should have probably said this in the beginning of the video, but spoilers for the War of the Spark story. Gideon makes a sacrifice at the very end of the story to save Liliana's life so that she can go after Bolus and try and stop him. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it works. Liliana is able to help and stop Bolus because of Gideon's sacrifice. But that's it. Gideon made this big sacrifice, gave everything to give them one last chance to win after failing himself to slay Bolus. And I think it would kind of cheapen his sacrifice and take away from it if he just came back all of a sudden a couple blocks later or sets later, a year late next year or something. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see him come back as a black-white planeswalker. I don't know. Just, he's gone. He's done his thing. Let's leave him out of the story. Or if you're gonna bring him back, at least let it be something like this was in the past. This is something that he did before, War of the Spark, before the Gatewatch. Then maybe, but even then, I don't want to see Gideon anymore because I don't want it to cheapen what he did. Yeah, that's my big thing with Gideon. Don't get me wrong, he's in my opinion one of the most badass planeswalkers. I really like him. He kind of all does the same exact thing, but I've liked most of his iterations, and that's it though. Like, he made a sacrifice, stick with it, let him rest. Yeah, I really like him, but let's just call it there. So, alright, with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this list. I went on a little bit longer than I intended to originally. Let me know what you guys think of this idea. If you don't like it, let me know. If you'd rather not see them, okay. You don't have to watch them, but I would appreciate it if you did. And you never know. You guys might enjoy these lists. And let me know what your guys' list is in the comment section below. What are the 10 planeswalkers or the 5 planeswalkers or the 1 planeswalker, however many, you just really do not want to see printed again for maybe at all, but at least not for a very long time. So, with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you did enjoy the video, and I will catch you guys next time.